All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being on time. We appreciate your attendance, and we are excited to bring you this seminar today for Michigan First Mortgage, which is a division of Michigan First Credit Union. It is our monthly virtual home buying seminar, and every month we bring you a different topic, and we're excited to bring you the topic of the power of what the right offer means in the purchasing situation. So my name is Dan Selig. I am the Chief Mortgage Lending Officer here at Michigan First Credit Union, and we are headquartered right at our Evergreen location, and we have locations across the state with 34 loan officers to serve you in 6 different locations for all your buying needs here in the state of Michigan. My job today is to guide and host the call and moderate the discussion between our 2 expert panelists. And today, like I said, we're going to cover the power of the right offer. We're going to get through our introductions here next. For the bulk of the call, we're going to go over all of the suggestions and questions that we brought up for our expert panelists today, and then at the very end we're going to cover 3 tips and tricks that we believe if you don't do anything you should take those away from our call today, and then of course have our closing reports, and if we have time at the end we will do some question and answer. So I want to remind everyone that we are recording the call today and that our chat box is open. Zareen is on the line to answer any of those chats, and make sure that everybody stays on mute and video is off because that helps with our call performance. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Grant Kravitz. Grant is a loan officer here at Michigan First, actually shares an office location here with me at Evergreen. And Grant, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you offer our members here. You're on mute, Grant. Grant, you're on mute.
Unmuted myself.
There you go.
There we go. Technology. So I won't start off saying I'm a technologist. I'm a loan officer. I'm born and raised here from in the state of Michigan, Detroit area. My family and I have had the same home. Funny story is my wife was a member of Detroit Teachers Credit Union that became Michigan First. So unfortunately, when we got our home, we weren't doing loans yet here. So we had to go elsewhere. I wanted to continue. When the opportunity presented itself, I wanted to come work where my money's at. So it's a great opportunity. Love to be able to help everyone, families, first time, second time investment, help them out in regards to getting that home ownership dream achieved.
Yeah, and Grant's been very active here at Michigan First, and certainly one of the hardest workers we have. So Grant, thanks for joining our call today. I know this is your first time in the call, so welcome. And our next guest we're having on is Jeremy Van Every. Did I say that right? Van Every, right? With LPT Realty. Jeremy has been very gracious to spend his time with us today and help educate some of our members. So Jeremy, take a few minutes and tell us about yourself, what you're really interested in, and how you can help our members.
Yeah, for sure. First and foremost, I like Grant. I'm also a girl dad. I actually have 5 girls myself, and I just became a grandfather in March. A granddaughter. So
yeah.
A lot of women in the family, I guess you could say. Our office, so I'm with LPT. LPT's probably a lot of people have never heard of LPT. They're a newer brokerage. We're in about our 4th year, kind of started in Florida. The goal was by the end of 2025 was to be in 25 states. We're actually in all 50 states and like 4 provinces in Canada. It's the fastest growing brokerage in real estate history. And I'm actually in Florida, in Orlando right now at our FallCon conference. Our CEO is on the stage right now. We actually have a representative from Zillow there telling us about how they're integrating ChatGPT and Zillow. Like they're putting Zillow right in the ChatGPT app for clients to be able to search and get information on homes straight out of ChatGPT. So as we all know, AI is taking over the world, and we're here, staying on top, learning, up to the minute information on how we can utilize it in our business and, give our clients a great customer experience.
Yeah. What does LPT stand for? Is that short for something or?
Yeah, so LPT stands for Listing Power Tools. So one of the main reasons I joined LPT was exactly that. They have what's called a power box. They have actually multiple power boxes. They have for open houses, for listings, for just solds, for luxury markets, all different ones. And the cool thing about LPT is they're all about agent choice. So they provide everything. You don't have to purchase it all, but it's there if you want to utilize it. So you can kind of grow and utilize the tools that they provide in your business as you see fit for you. It's really, really amazing. So with every listing, we get what's called the free power box. We just pay shipping. And that's 185 pieces of print, like high quality print marketing material that we come and we put out into your neighborhood.
Right.
There's like market reports, everything. So it's really, really amazing. So it's not just relying on, putting the house on the MLS, putting a sign in the yard and praying. We're actually doing the work. We're getting out into the community, being involved in the community, and going into the communities where we shop locally. We're all here. We're a community. We're all here to help each other in our businesses, and LPT really takes a lot of pride in that. So it's pretty amazing to be a part of.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear you're making progress there. AI is everywhere, certainly, and using it properly and certainly servicing our members is important to us. So we appreciate you being on board today. All right, now we're in the meat of our conversation. Grant, I'm going to start with you. So, I've been in this business a long time. So maybe start by telling me, I'll give you a little curveball here. Tell me the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification. And so I'll come off of that question for you if you can tell me what the difference might be for our members.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. So basically, a pre-qualification is when a member or a buyer can have that conversation with the loan officer and give them some of the information like, hey, I'm giving us permission to run their credit. So we got an idea where their credit, we got an idea where their income is, we got an idea of what their assets are. So I can sort of formulate and say, hey, Dan, in the perfect world, or here's where we're at, you'd probably be able to be qualified for X. Okay.
So that back of the napkin kind of thing, right? Like pad of paper, let me figure out what you can afford, right? Yeah.
I haven't sharpened my pencil yet. I haven't got an idea. We live in the world where I like to say, hey, I trust what you're telling me, Dan, but I got to verify it. Okay.
Yeah.
And in verifying it comes from getting me those documents. Okay. Let me see your income documents, whether you're a full-time employment with a W-2 payroll or paycheck, or if you're self-employment, what are the right documents that I'm going to need to get from you? Verify that. W-2s, tax returns.
So now you're moving from that pre-qual into a pre-approval, a fully vetted pre-approval, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Now I'm getting you pre-approved. I've looked at your assets. I've made sure you haven't had too many negative things that may put us in a position so that down the road, I can then turn and say, hey, Jeremy, I've got a person when they are ready to go. Okay.
So you're taking that information now, that the information you've sourced from the member, and you've combined it with a verified tri-merged credit report, right? Not a soft pull, not a kind of a one-line pull to see what your score is. You've actually pulled all of the same information we're going to need to approve the loan once we find a home, and you've formulated that into a document now.
Correct. 100%.
Yeah. So the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qual. Pre-qual is, hey, this is based on what you've told me I think you can do. Pre-approval is like, I've verified everything. Here it is, the same information I need. So I'll switch to Jeremy now. Jeremy, so I give you that. So how much stronger is my offer for you when you have that versus this is what my lender told me I could afford kind of thing?
Well, that is huge, and that's everything. If an agent is doing their due diligence, as a listing agent, I'm not accepting an offer where they just have a pre-qualification. Like, I need to see a valid pre-approval, because exactly that, I can accept an offer and possibly lose out on another one and then this deal falls through because it's not a pre-approval, it's a pre-qualification, and now that other buyer that was pre-approved purchase another home, I just lost out on a buyer for my seller. So it's very, very important. That's the first number one thing that we're asking for as a listing agent is the pre-approval. We need to see the pre-approval before we can even entertain accepting.
So is it fair to say if you're looking at competing offers on a listing for sale, and one has been fully pre-approved and one has a pretty good idea kind of what they can afford, you're more or less going to say, hey, I would advise my borrower to take the pre-approved one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that certainly makes it a lot stronger. And I don't want to allude that people do that today, but there are some lenders that don't offer that service because, to be very transparent, there are expenses on the lender to give that. Even though we don't charge for that, credit costs today on that, if they're not reimbursed, are somewhere north of $100 for that service. So certainly knowing that you work with a credit union or financial institution like us that offer those to our clients, and quite honestly, you as a realtor is almost dependent upon that service, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Great. So, Jeremy, tell me a little bit about the market where you're seeing in your homes. What's going on with the real estate market today? We've been through a really weird time since COVID. We've seen kind of the best of times and the worst of times. So tell me what's going on in your market today.
So, I mean, we really are seeing a little bit more of a balanced market. Shortly after COVID and during COVID, it was a heavy sellers market. Buyers were having to do all kinds of things like waive home inspections, crazy things that I would never advise to my clients in order to secure an offer. Everything, a lot of homes were going for 20, 30, $60,000 over asking, with huge appraisal guarantees. We're kind of not seeing that so much now. It's a little bit more balanced. Obviously, we're still having inventory issues, but we are seeing buyers that, FHA buyers or buyers that have had contingencies that, would never get an offer accepted before in the market we were in, able to get offers accepted now. Homes are sitting a little bit longer. People still think that, or sellers still believe that they can price really high, but the market has shifted and
Yeah.
it will depict that. So it's really important to have the proper conversation with the seller and, set their expectations correct, because the number one thing that hurts them is they think they're going to list it high and then it sits and sits and sits. And so as soon as somebody sees the market on the home for 2 weeks, because it's priced high and the market's showing that there's not getting any showings, that's just hurting them. Now people aren't going to look at the house because they think, well, this one's been on the market for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There must be something wrong with it. And they just breeze on to the next one.
Yeah,
So,
I look at a bunch of economic data. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I look at a bunch of economic data. One of the first things they do as a market weakness is they say, the percentage of price drops, in the first week, the second week, the third week. Well, if you're not pricing correctly to begin with, if that shift, mental shift, perceptual shift hasn't happened, that number is going to be higher just by his happenstance, right? There was a time, I think, the market, I think you used the word earlier, and I love the key on that word, is it's becoming a more balanced market, and that's healthier for the market as a whole. And of course, your perception is going to be from your point, whether you're buying or selling, but either way, you want a healthy market. You want a certain level of inventory, stuff to compare your home to, whether you're buying or selling. So those are all great points. It's great that we're starting to see that. I think the change is always hard. People feel that in the beginning, certainly, but we want to get to that market. Grant, if we could come back to you for a minute. I know we talked about the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification. Mm-hmm. So are there some assumptions a buyer might make if somebody's unwilling to give documentation for a pre-approval? Like, what do you think that perception is if somebody hasn't been pre-approved today?
That's a good question, Dan. I mean, to me, and I think to the buyer, it's a lack of being serious. They may not have the financial stability that they may think that they have, that they don't. Jeremy said we're not in a competitive market yet, but that can turn on a dime. All it takes is one other offer to be put in, and it's competitive. It's me against you. So how do I make myself look out better? If there's not all the proper documentation and we have everything up front, it puts that question mark in that buyer or that buyer's agent's mind going, hey, yeah, maybe the number was better, but are we going to have a more difficult time getting this through processing because of where this person is? And we want to erase those questions.
Yeah, you want to remove as much doubt as possible, regardless of the market, certainly. You want your offer accepted with confidence. There's a few variable things that happen, whether it be an inspection or an appraisal that nobody can control, or title work, those kind of things. But the things we can control, you want to remove the variability out of there because it really does help streamline the process. We have this project here at Michigan First where we call it 21 and done. We want application to ready to close, not closing. Closing would be great because we don't control closing, but within 21 days or less. And we've had a few where we were right at 8 and 9 days to close, which is really cool because that means we did all the work up front and really got through the process quickly. So Jeremy, coming back to you, what's the importance of working with an agent? I think I know the general answer here, but so let's say I'm buying a property in Clarkston or in Rochester or in Plymouth. Do I want to choose a realtor from Grand Rapids or do I want to get a local market? And what's the advantage?
The real advantage to working with an agent that's in the market that you want to be in is the fact that they have a lot of relationships with other agents in that market, first off. So if they're in the area and they know the market, they know what homes have been closing at, what percentage over asking, or how long they've been sitting on the market. So they can really strategically look at the individual property and make the best decision on how to draft up the offer. Like just for instance, Grant and I just did a deal together. We just got the appraisal back here yesterday. And this one was listed, I believe it was like at 179, but it had been on the market for like 68 days. And so we went in at 167 and secured the offer. We got it under contract and the appraisal came back yesterday at 178. So like we really won for our clients. They already got instant equity in the home. That comes from me knowing the market in that area. I had the conversation with my client. We didn't want to lowball because sometimes that can offend sellers, but we went in with an educational value of what we really thought that would work for both of our clients, and the fact that we needed to make sure that it was going to appraise, and we won. So it was
great. Succeeded. I wouldn't say won because it is. Yeah, the property's only worth what somebody's willing to pay you for. Regardless of the appraised value, it's only worth what somebody's willing to pay you for. It is a lesson I learned very early in my career. So, and I think there's a bunch of advantages to local market knowledge. Especially if you're buying in an area that you are not familiar with, you want to make sure your real estate agent is familiar with zoning ordinances, the school systems, all those things that are intangible in that process. So certainly knowing somebody local to that market is good. And certainly I think given the advent, we just talked about AI and internet and all those other tools we have, those market areas become a little bit bigger. So it's not like you just have a one town you're good with. You certainly can do county or multiple county areas, but I think it's, experience, certainly partnerships, and then an area of expertise, I think is a good rule of thumb to use. So love that point. Going back to Grant, so are there situations where seller concessions, that's not a word I've heard in a long time, but seller concessions make the difference in getting an offer accepted? Talk to me a little about, from a lender perspective, what you think of that.
It's a word that it's a term I said to myself a couple of years ago, Dan, that was a New Year's resolution that I wanted to hear those words again. And I think it's on both parts. I'm working with a client right now where we needed to try to put it in a situation where, hey, if we know that the home can appraise for a little bit more, there's some money that's there that the seller can sell it for a little bit over what the initial ask was and kick some of that back to the client. Because it's going to help them with closing costs. It's going to help that buyer, if there's any repairs, without discouraging the seller. Hey, the seller's still going to walk away with the X that they were looking for. So onus becomes on myself as a loan officer. Hey, how can we make this work? Each situation's a different situation. Can we find a way to up the amount up a little bit where it's going to give me that ability to then turn around and say, hey, Dan, have your client, would they accept 180 and would the home appraise at 180? Great. All right, perfect. Now we got 6,000 because they only needed 174 that can help my buyer when it comes to closing and get them to the closing table.
Yeah, there are opportunities, I think, to create room in the value of the offer and home to accommodate some of the costs or expenses incurred for your buyer. So the form of a seller's concession mean that they are going to concede some of that potential profit for the home to cover the expense for the buyer.
Yeah, to add, because one of the things that I hear a lot is, the buyer thinks, hey, the seller's going to pay my closing costs. Hey, Dan, all I have to do is bring my down payment. Somewhere that was burned into somebody's mind long back that, well, the seller pays for all the costs, right? No, you're paying for your closing costs. So there's a way to help offset a little bit of that if they are in that sense. And it becomes like, hey, a win-win for all parties.
Yeah, and it's always good to remember that there are limits to that based on the loan product. So as a percentage of the actual loan amount that you're borrowing, there are some limitations. So there isn't undue, certainly coercion there to get that done. And then ultimately, the house value has to be of the point that it does accommodate that. So Jeremy, if I go back and thinking about that, we talked about the type of pre-approval we're going to offer, and then certainly how having using a local agent. Are there flexible terms that certainly beyond the price itself, which we just discussed, can make the offer more attractive to a seller?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, flexibility with the closing date. Oftentimes, sellers need to sell their house in order to purchase theirs. So they may need to have their house under contract so that they can have the new house under contract, close on that, and then close and get the funding. So being flexible in that, offering occupancy. So, you can offer 30 to 60-day occupancy. You can offer that to them for free. So occupancy means basically you close on the home, and then after you close on the home, they get to continue to live in the home rent free for the next 30 days. Because typically when you close on your loan, you're not making your first mortgage payment until a month, and like depending on what the date is, it could be a month. So say you closed in the middle of October, you may not have to do your first payment until December 1st. So having those conversations with your agent and your lender and figuring out if you can offer free occupancy or if you can offer them to rent the house out, that gives them time to do what they need to do to close on their house and move out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously, covering like small appraisal gaps. So, if we're looking at a price point and we think if we can go over asking by 5,000, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the house is going to appraise 5,000
Right.
over asking. So we can offer, to put in an appraisal guarantee, which says, if we close on the house at 200, and it only appraises at 195, we're still going to pay the 200.
Yeah. So flexible terms, similar to a buyer being able to ask for concessions, a seller could be willing to accept some more favorable terms to them. So, boy, if I think about occupancy, I know, I think I'm on this is my fifth home that I purchased that I live in now. We've been in here a long time, so it's been a long time. But it was almost a given. Like if you closed and asked for occupancy, you had to pay rent. Like it was always the mortgage payment divided by 30 per day. That's what you had to pay, kind of thing. So to hear that might be coming back, or I haven't heard occupancy in a long time. It's like, you're in my house, get out, kind of thing. So.
We see it all the time, honestly. We see it all the time. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Grant, last question for you. What steps can our members take with their financing ahead of time to avoid the hesitation when the right property comes up? I think I know this answer, but there's got to be some certain plans here that you have. So,
the first is, picking up the phone or having the conversation with their loan officer. And I think one of the things that we set ourselves apart here at Michigan First is, meeting with us and sitting down and sitting down face to face and having that conversation and get to know, so that we can build a trust factor between myself and the buyer. Looking at their documentation, hey, making sure they have everything, getting all their docs together, of course. We all get our, especially in this day, we've got people from different ages. People aren't great with technology. Some of them aren't getting the hard copies of their W-2s at the end of the year, finding the ways to get those. So working together, get all the financial documents together. Looking at credit reports, be it on the soft side or not, to be able to see, hey, what may cause a heartache that we may run into some situations so that we can, I live by the model of, hey, when the home's ready, you can't be in a process of, I found that home, it's time to get ready. You're behind the boat because you've already beaten my client who has the pre-approval, who's already there. You have to be ready first and find that home. You can't get ready at that time. That step has to be, I'm thinking of buying a home. Great. Here are all the steps that we're going to do. Just like I'm thinking of getting married. You don't just show up with your bride at wherever and say, hey, I'm ready to get married. I mean, there's certain steps you have to take in anything, any big milestone.
We're not going to do marriage counseling today. That's not going to happen. So I would tell you, one last question before I move the last question for Jeremy. For our serious members that are looking about becoming homeowners or buying their next house, how much do you charge them to do a full-blown pre-approval?
There's no charge.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
No charge.
It does cost money, but that's an investment we make in our members to move them along. So,
hey, my time is free. I often joke that my therapy couch is open. I take all no forms of payment. Let's have a conversation.
All right. And then for Jeremy, so if we do that work, we get our members pre-approved, fully pre-approved. What is the advantage of being prepared and act quickly for a competitive market for you?
I mean, it's huge because like Grant said, the good homes still are, because we do have an inventory shortage, the great homes do go quickly. So people that are relying on sites like Trulia and Zillow and realtor.com and stuff like that, to look for homes versus working with an agent who has access to the MLS. When you have access to the MLS and an agent lists a home, if it's in the criteria that your agent has set up for you and is a match for you, you're going to instantly see that house in your home search. Whereas if you're waiting on Zillow, it might have already been on the market for 24 to 72 hours, and now you're just seeing it. Now you're reaching out to me, hey Jeremy, can we go see this house? I'm calling the listing agent and I'm finding out that it's already under contract. We missed the boat. And then it's the same thing. If you don't have your pre-approval ready, we cannot put an offer. No good agent is going to accept an offer or even entertain an offer without having that pre-approval. And so being prepared and being ready to go, because buying a home is you can look at all the pictures you want online. For the majority of my clients, it's a feeling. When we walk into the home, they know that's the one. And the worst feeling in the world is having them walk into the home knowing it's the one, and then we can't do anything about it.
Can't act on it, right? Yeah. That's great. So Jeremy, roll right into your 3 takeaways today. So I know they're on the screen, but what do you think are the important points behind those for our members to take away today?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's super important to be prepared, have those upfront conversations, know your price point. That's another big thing is a lot of times people, they think that they can afford one thing and then they find out another, whether it be they can afford more or whether it can be they afford less. It's important to know not so much about the price of the home, but what are they comfortable with their monthly payment? Like they might be able to afford a $500,000 home, but they're not comfortable with that monthly payment. So it's not about the price of the home. It's about what you're comfortable with. And that all starts with the conversation with the lender to find out where you're at. And then you can make an educated decision of, hey, this is what we want to spend. And so then when you come to me, I can help you. We can look for homes in that price point that you're willing to entertain, And should you choose to move up, great. Should you choose to pick less, it doesn't matter to us. It's your home. You're going to be the one living there. We're there to help guide you. And, it's all about, like I said, it's a feeling when you walk into that home. Sometimes I have clients, they just drive up out in front of the house and get out of the car and are like, wow, Jeremy, like I can already tell this is going to be great. Like I can see myself living here. And we haven't even walked into the house yet. It's like they get these feelings. And then I've also had the opposite where we take 2 steps inside the door and they're like, oh my God, no, let's leave. Like we don't even
pass, right?
Like it's funny, but that's
listen, home ownership is as much emotional as it is technical. So Grant, from your standpoint, what are the 3 things you want our takers to take away?
As it says on the screen, I think that the biggest thing is, hey, making sure you talk to a loan officer first so you have the right idea of what price point that you're in so that you're not wasting time. What a horrible experience is that you're out there shopping for homes that you suddenly know you can't afford because you don't have enough for the down payment. You don't have, enough for bringing down to be able to be pre-approved. So in my standpoint, I say having that conversation up front with your loan officer so that they can guide you into what's going to work for you. Approving you to the max, but that doesn't mean you have to go to the highest amount, giving you that range so you can sit down with your realtor, like Jeremy said, and find the right home so you guys can work together. To me, it's to put that right offer in, all parties have to work together, from your loan officer to the relationship with the realtor and that buyer so that everybody's on the right page looking for the right thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. We always run out of time, but definitely a great conversation today. So for the members that are on the call today, or are going to see this down the road, for general information about this series, you can email info@michiganfirstmortgage.com. If you want to get online and check out our qualified loan officers, you can see those at michiganfirstmortgage.com/mortgage. You can call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and ask to speak to one of our loan officers. Or even better, you can email or call Grant directly. His information's there on the screen. You can take a quick snip of it. And Jeremy, our realtor partner today, thanks, Jeremy, for joining. We appreciate you being here today. You can reach Jeremy at his phone number there, and then solvajeremy@gmail.com. So thank you all. Don't forget, if you are a homeowner or you're looking to be a homeowner, you certainly can get a insurance quote from Michigan First Insurance Agency. We help with homeowners and a bunch of other auto and home and life and all those things. I think even pet insurance out there. So certainly reach out to them there at 866-386-2216. Thank you all for attending our call today. If you remember one thing, reach out to Jeremy and reach out to Grant and get your home buying journey started. Thank you and have a great October. Happy Halloween.